A chilling masterpiece of the horror genre, Dracula illuminates the dark corners of Victorian sexuality. When Jonathan Harker visits Transylvania to advise Count Dracula on a London home, he makes a horrifying discovery. Soon afterwards, a number of disturbing incidents unfold in England. An unmanned ship is wrecked at Whitby, strange puncture marks appear on a young woman's neck, and the inmate of a lunatic asylum raves about the arrival of his master, while a determined group of adversaries prepares to face the terrifying Count. Hello and welcome. This is going to be an audiobook review series of Dracula by Bram Stoker. In each video episode I will review one or more chapters from the book. In every video I will point out what I think is interesting within these chapters. Interesting things like the characters we meet, about the setting, about the mood, and maybe at the end of all this I will make a short video, a short summary, where I take up the characters we meet, the settings, the mood, and the possible themes of this book. The genre of this book is a horror one. Maybe you know, since you know about Dracula from before. It's a quite famous book, and I figured it was not that many people that has made such an audiobook review series about it. So I thought, let's be creative. I can be one of the first people to do it. Or at least I will be one person who tried it. I'm sure there has been many other people who has thought of the same idea. Either way, this will be my personal sort of book log about Dracula by Bram Stoker. Tag along for the ride. Because it's his journal, and secondly, when we read about it on the back, it talks about two people, about Jonathan Harker and then about Count Dracula. Count Dracula we get to meet a bit later within the book. However, in chapter 1 we are quite strictly held to a lot of impressions, a lot of imagery with many different words that might sound a bit queer to the one who's not used to the most formal, no, not really formal, old, more complex English. Maybe someone who doesn't know about fluttering will think that it's a really weird word, or missiles, or other words in this text. The thing is, since this book is so old, there are some words which are not used in modern day English that are being used in this book. I am no native speaker of English, however I've been practicing and speaking English for many years, almost about 8. And probably a bit more, maybe 10, not sure. When I started to read English, I mean, in school and with my friends. However, I don't find the first chapter to be too difficult with language. There are some words which I've had to look up to make sure that I know the meaning. One word would be picturesque, which is basically about imagery and how you can describe someone being picturesque, being its full imagery. I have a hard time pronouncing it. Imagery. There are also other words from other languages in this book. This book is, or this chapter I should say, is set in a journey from London to Romania, to Transylvania, which is a sort of state within Romania. We get to see or hear some German, because apparently German is one of the languages that some people are able to speak in Romania. I did not know that. I find that quite interesting. For example, here on page 11 in the book, it says this quote, and I need to apologize, my German, I don't know anything about it. I will probably sound like a moron, so excuse me. Den die Toten reiten schnell, which would be translated to "for the dead travel fast." I think the fact that the author Bram Stoker uses some other languages is quite intriguing, since I really like different cultures and I like languages. I like that he has implemented quotes like that German one I just wrote, or spoke, I mean, and that he talks about the plain folk, the small folk that he visits or is stuck with on his trip to Transylvania, how they talk about things which he himself, or I mean Jonathan Harker, writes down in his journal, that these words I looked up on my own dictionary. For example, Ordog, which is Satan, Stregoica, which is witch, and Pokol, something like that, which is hell. Then we have Vrolok and Vlokoislak, both which mean the same thing, one being Slovak and the other Serbian. I'm not so good at pronouncing these words. However, I think the fact that they are just in this book and in this chapter makes it intriguing for me to continue. It gives some more imagery, which makes it easier to follow as a reader, how the plot and everything changes, or just to get a general background, how the character is perceiving everything. Since this is a journal we are reading, we are actually getting into this person's mind, sort of. And I find that quite interesting, that he gets stuck on these words and he translates them because he thinks they are odd. And as I told you, witch is not the most commonly used word, so it is quite odd. Another thing that is intriguing to me in this chapter is the way the author describes everything, how he paints up a picture for us, using different types of words. I will now read a sentence on page 7. There was everywhere a bewildering mass of fruit blossom, apple, plum, pear, cherry, and as we drove by I could see the green grass under the trees spangled with the fallen petals. there are plenty of these descriptive sentences which makes it easy to see what the character sees, and I really like this about this book. I got a good feeling going on, and to read more about it just based on these few things. But to sum the chapter up, we get to be introduced a bit to Jonathan Harker. We get to travel with him from London, and through his journal we get to see what he's thinking about the environment. We get to read some conversations he has with the local folks of Transylvania, how they fear this Count Dracula, because they don't really talk about him. They know about him, and when Jonathan Harker asks, they say they don't know. They don't say anything about him. That is quite intriguing, and you can really feel the suspicion and the queeriness of Jonathan Harker's feelings towards going to this man he's never met before, to this Count, to Dracula, when he can't even get information about him from the local folk or the small folk. He gets a bit suspicious. Then he gets up on a, what was it called? I don't remember the fancy word and I can't find it in the book. However, it was a horse and wagon, sort of, where he sits with other people that are going to travel to another city. However, Jonathan Harker will be dropped off in the middle of the road and be picked up by another horse and carriage, by the butler, or that is servant of Dracula. The creepy thing about this is it's pitch black when this happens, and the horses of the butler to Dracula are pitch black. They're dark. Yeah, I know, it's quite an intense chapter, and I can't wait to read the rest about it, or read the rest of the book. See you later.